Alrighty. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Enhance Don't Distract podcast, episode number 50. Today, my co-host, as always, Jordan. We are halfway to 100, and today we've got a great episode for you. Like always, thank you so much for watching, giving us your attention, and taking the time to actually watch us. Today, we want to highlight, if you're listening to this on audio only, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube and would like to listen to us on audio only, like when you're driving in your car, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the places that you can find audio. And then if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We are trying to make sure that we get an episode every Friday, or as close to every Friday as we possibly can.
We've been pretty good about it.
We've been pretty good. I think we've missed one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one?
I had to have a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, not actually me, but...
I mean, two become one? Does that count?
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Every woman listening just cringed, and I will get slapped by my wife when I get home.
I was going to say, that probably the two women, it's like our wives. If you're a woman that's watching this in the church world, in the church technology world, please leave a comment. We want to know.
I actually do want to know.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. We actually want to know. Yeah.
All right, what are we talking about?
That would actually also be like another topic, though, too.
Yeah.
Like have a lady in here that shares her experience, and this isn't just a male-dominated world. I mean, I get it.
It totally is. But before we get into today's topic and we move on from this, you wanted to talk about something, right?
Here, the gear thing, or
what? What's this? What is that? Oh, it didn't work. It was like in the middle of the song.
So I've not heard the Gear Corner song,
where we talk about gear. Oh, it's the Gear Corner. Welcome to the Gear Corner. Sean didn't make us something, so I had to make us something. And this is not my gifting. So this is what you get.
What is that like digitized voice though in the background? It sounds like they were like saying the alphabet or something like that.
All the noise in the background?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was I totally had AI make that song. And then I just threw it into GarageBand and just went Gear Corner. Like there's no effects there. It's just me being silly or stupid, whichever you prefer.
Just having fun. Yeah.
All right. So Gear Corner, what do you got?
I didn't grab it though. I thought we were doing this another time.
No, I got you. Hang on. Yeah, you sent me a picture of it, didn't you? Oh no, you sent me the link. I did. You sent me the Lowe's link. Okay, here, we'll just pull it up. I got you.
So if you guys are anything like me, I am notorious for carrying stuff around in my pockets. I've worked at bike shops and carried tools home overnight, and then had the next day off. And they were like, "Where's the 14mm wrench?" Like, it's like, "Oh yeah, here it is in my pocket."
Yeah, you're like, it's in my pocket,
right where it should be. Right
there, you go.
So I was like, I literally don't have any more room in my pockets. I have a lot of stuff that I always carry around and I always have it with me. So I picked up one of these little guys from, what is it? It's Tough Build. And honestly, like I love it. It clips on my belt, and then a pouch where I can carry like zip ties, pliers, different little tools, screwdrivers, pens, marker, like just any little odds and end thing. Up in a lift, anywhere, it's clipped into me. And then what's great is if I want to go to lunch or something like that, I just unclip it from the clip. The clip stays on my belt.
So for the longest time, I saw those little clips everywhere. I had no idea what they were for. They were very confusing until I was working with my business partner and saw he had one. And I was like, that's what that is?
Yeah. It's super secure. Like, it's a really big click. I actually really like this like Tough brand. It's kind of interesting. There's different sizes. I kind of got one of the smaller ones because I don't need a huge man purse on my side all the time.
So here, my thing is like, I can't do stuff like that. So it's like my snips that I carry around when I'm on an install, like those are in like their own little sheath on my belt. But then I ended up just buying some like really nice Duluth pants that have like all these nice little tools slots in them.
Yeah.
So it's like you can clearly tell that there's a screwdriver in your pocket on your leg, right?
Right.
You're not like forgetting that there's a wrench in your back pocket.
Yeah. Well, so like my everyday jean is the 511 like Defender. It's like an extra pocket. It's for something else, not tools, and I'm not that I do that, but hey, maybe I do. You never know.
Dual use.
Yeah, exactly. But like they're full and I don't want to take stuff out all the time and be stuffing tools in there and stuff.
Yeah. And then I also just like, we took a tool bag like this and we just literally screwed it into our scissor lift.
Yeah.
So that way, like, we didn't have to do it. Like, and it was funny, like when I left the one church that we did it at, and then I went to the AV company that I was originally with. I was like, hey, I'm totally going to screw this little tool pouch to the inside of our lift. And they all laughed at me. Everyone laughed at me. And then the one guy that really ridiculed me, he was like, he came to me like 2 days later. He goes, hey, I just have to say that's the greatest idea I've ever seen in my entire life. I thought it was stupid, but it's the best.
Yep. I mean, look, I don't love it, and I'm not necessarily. I know people that wear these things around all day long, but yeah, I mean, like what, $15 at Lowe's? You can get different sizes. Yeah, it's again, our tools are so important to us, and having them around, and I didn't want that to be a barrier for me. So
yeah, and I do like the idea of like the guy that like always walks away with the tools, right? He needs one of these, right? Because it's like it's hard to accidentally walk away with that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So. And for me, that's the big thing. That's the big selling point, is being able to take it on and off, and with great ease. Yeah. You're basically like able to unload your pockets and take a break or go to lunch or be like, okay, cool. This is the kit for terminating Cat 6 or whatever, and put it down. And now I need to get my one that is for terminating SDI. Like it's just really nice and easy. Yeah. So. And I think the Tough Build line, like you can put that into their carriers and stuff, and like they have little clips. And again, Justin, I know you're a big Milwaukee guy, but
I've got some other tools too.
Yeah,
I've got my Milwaukee cutter right here, my pocket knife in my pocket.
I thought you when you said other tools, like other brands.
Oh no, I do. I have a couple other brands, but I'm just saying I do have my Milwaukee stuff here too. So
you've got a lot of Milwaukee stuff.
I do have a lot of Milwaukee stuff. I should be a dealer. Is really what it should be.
Or sponsorship if you'd like to take a sponsorship.
Milwaukee Tool, if you're listening to this podcast, first of all, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Second of all, subscribe. Third of all, third of all, you should give us a sponsorship. Yeah. Oh, hey,
we'll put you in the podcast even more.
By the way, business name has changed. We are no longer EM Technologies. We are officially Enhance AVL. And you can go and find us on Twitter and on Facebook, Enhance AVL, at all of those places. X, not Twitter. Sorry, I will never not call it Twitter.
No, I'm with you.
So, and the website is enhanceavl.com, and you can reach both me and Jordan at our name at enhanceavl.com. So make sure you guys go and check those out. Follow us on the old Twitters. Sorry, X again. Dang, I just did it literally 5 seconds later.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah. No, and that's because we just believe in what we're preaching about here. Like we want to be enhancing things, and it's just a great way to tell a story to our customers. So. Yeah,
and it's our business doing this stuff. Man, your MacBook is loud when it dings when you get a text message.
Yeah. There might be another like headphone jack like right here. They don't ever put in this year. Like I'm wearing a bing. Yep.
All right. Well, let's get back into it. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah. So, if you haven't had a chance yet, go back and watch Is Online Church Killing the Church? Episode we did last week or previously.
Episode 49.
Episode 49. Thank you. Where this is kind of a natural jump off point. Like we were thinking about that, and it's like, okay, well, what does that mean then for us? Like if online church is not where people want to go, And, it's not really hidden numbers. And then, big takeaway, if you haven't watched it, little spoiler here, but like only 5% of the population go to church online exclusively every week. 5%. What does that mean? That may not be a great return on investment for us and for our monies, our time, our resources. What does that mean for us? Yeah. Where should we be putting our energies? And so we wanted to follow up and share our thoughts on that. So
yeah, I think for me, as we're kind of talking about this, and we did that episode, and that episode's got a lot of stuff in it. It's not saying that 100% live stream is terrible, you shouldn't do it or anything like that. No. It's saying you should probably rethink, like Jordan said, right? Rethink the amount of tools and resources and time that we put into it. So,
yeah, but maybe it is. So you should probably go watch it. But maybe it's not. You have to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, find out all the details. So, but yeah, I think that there's a holistic thought process to church that I don't feel like gets done. And you know, Jordan, throw it back at me if you think that I'm wrong here. But I feel like everyone looks at everything like silos, right? And it's like, oh, well, the person greeting doesn't affect the person speaking, and the leadership team isn't really affecting, like everything is its own thing, right? So we can go and we can change everything we want to over here, and it doesn't affect anyone else. And that's not true in my opinion. So when I say holistic, I think we should be holistic before we go online. And that means that our entire service in church is running together, right? You can hear all these people talk about casting vision, and that the vision and the mission of the church is that everything we do should be pushing those forward, and that those should be the centerpieces to everything that we're doing. And I think that when you say that, but then think that it doesn't matter if we have good greeters or not, that literally is the opposite of pushing your mission and your vision statements forward, right? Is the AV good? It doesn't really matter because people are here to hear the word of Jesus. Well, that also doesn't push the mission, statement forward, right? Because distracting things are distracting, literally that, right? Yep. How many times have you been in some sort of church service where you're running sound, or maybe not, you're not even running sound. You're just in the room, you're in the booth, whatever it may be, and there's a actual legitimate major issue, right? The speaker's microphone just starts cutting in and out, starts feeding back, disappears. The projectors go out when they're trying to show an image. There's a light flickering. What do you and almost everyone do when that happens?
Did we both just turn around?
We did.
And not look at the camera then? Yeah. Yep.
So, and I remember I was at a leadership conference.
That was not planned, everybody.
We actually planned that out. We synchronized it, and Sean actually choreographed it. That's not true. We really didn't plan it. I was at this leadership conference, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And one of the pastors, he was the AV guy, and he was like becoming part of like the leadership team for this conference. And he got up and he was like, kind of, hey guys, this is what's going to happen. We're going to be doing all these things. And he's like, but I do want to like point out one really important thing, that if there is any technical issues, it does not speed things up if you turn around and look at the sound guy. So please don't. Because he's not wrong. Usually in most of those scenarios, all of a sudden 20 people are looking at you. What do?
Yep.
I'm working on it, I promise.
Yeah. Just freeze, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I think holistically, like everything from how the parking lot looks to the smell of the building when you walk in, to the face that greets you, to how clean the bathrooms are, to is there a welcome card in every room, is the signage in the building well done? Does the person that welcomes everyone seem like he's friendly or she's friendly? Does it sound at least decently good, right? Are the lights and the video done decently well, right? Yeah. Like, is everything at least at an okay level, and is it trending upwards as time goes on? Yeah. Right.
And we're not pulling this out of thin air. Like big places, big experiential places Disney, restaurants, you could just keep going down the line. They're intentional about every single step that a customer, and again, customer, guest, whatever you want to call it, is taking into their space. They're aware of that experience. I don't know. I know, Justin, you pull a lot of time, a lot of value from your time at Disney.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that even.
Yeah. I mean, I think that their thought process is I don't know, slightly different because of the reason why, right? Yeah. Like our reason. So like when we go through Disney University is what they call it. Their big thing is, hey, the average cost, and now remember this was 15 years ago. So
yeah,
the average cost for a family of 4 to come from the state of Washington to Florida, stay at Disney for a week, stay on property, and eat was $20,000 to $25,000, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, and it's only more now. So
yeah, right. And people were taking out, people take out literal loans on their houses to do family Disney trips for a week. For a lot of people, it's a once in a lifetime thing, right? And so that was the reason why, hey, our standard has to not just be good, it has to be great, right? You have to give them the experience that they will never forget. This one time we went to Disney World and enter story. And my family did that. My grandparents took our entire family one time. I think my grandparents were big gamblers, so I think they won a bunch of money at a casino one time, and they were like, we're going to take the entire family to Disney World. I don't know, like 10. So and there was like 12 of us that went, right? And like I remember like till today, right, that there's so much that was so much fun that we love, that memories that I will never forget, right? And that's because they created an environment that there was no reason for me to be upset. And when I worked there, we had I had a manager. I worked in merchandise which is now Disney Springs, but it was downtown Disney, and I worked at the World of Disney. So it's a giant Disney store. It's massive. I think it's the largest one in the world. And at the time, 15 years ago, we did, on a slow night, we did about $200,000 a day. On Christmas times, we would get to almost $1 million a day in merchandise, like a day, for just our location.
That isn't even just like volume wise. That is so much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're talking about like thousands of t-shirts.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 2 to 3, sometimes 4 semi trucks of merchandise that would come in every night. And when I worked third shift, right? So, just crazy stuff. So, but I had this one manager, and he was great. His name was Jim, and he did both of these things. We were walking around the store one time, and there's this giant stitch on top of the building that spits out water. Well, he gets taken down like, I don't know, every 3 years or so to get painted. Right. Because he's in Florida sun. Right.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be around that time. Right. It was a slow time of the year, which is when they try to do those things. And this kid comes in and goes, the giant stitch on top of your building is gone. And he goes like this. What? Show me. And like the kid walks him and me out there. And my manager goes, uh-oh. Grabs his radio and goes, guys, we got a code 626. And he's like, thank you so much for letting us know. This is like the 5th time he's gotten out. Like, we'll make sure he gets back. It might be a couple days, but like, how long are you here for? And he's like, we're here for a week. He's like, okay, I'm pretty sure we'll get him back in before you guys leave. Cause like he was due back in like a day or two. And so this kid was like, oh, okay. And then like a couple days later, he told me that kid came back and was like so excited that Stitch had come back and that we found him. Right. And it was like that thing right there made that kid's day, which also made that kid's parents' day and trip. Right.
Yep.
We had the same manager that, they had, this kid had a stuffed animal. I don't even remember what it was, that had fallen on the ground, and one of these like food cart things like pushed and ran over top of it and like ripped the arm off a little bit. And he's like, oh, well, good thing I have a stuffed animal hospital in the back. Can I take him to get him fixed up? It was a stuffed animal we carried in our store. Right. So he brought the stuffed animal back, literally got a new stuffed animal, and then went to our first aid kit and like wrapped bandages around the arm that was ripped and brought it back to this kid and said, just don't take him off until tomorrow. And he should be all healed up. That kid was like ecstatic that, there's things like that, right? It's just like that above and beyond, right? But those are the reasons why they did that. And so like for me, when it comes to church, why are we not having that same mentality?
Yeah. I would even say it's above and beyond, but then also just preparedness.
Yeah.
Like he knew he knew when he asked the kid, like, what? His stitch is gone? He knew that was going to happen. He had that planned out. That is not off the cuff.
No.
And that's where
he was pretty smart. He was probably one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah, but like that also hasn't been the first time that probably happened.
Oh, probably not. He'd been there for like 10 years at that point. So
right. And so it's a little, stitch that or a stick that he does, and
or a stitch that he does.
Yeah, exactly. See what I did there? Yep. He's it's just being preparedness and thinking through like what would happen. It's like, oh yeah, maybe we should get a little car jumper cable kit because somebody might leave a light on or a door open during church.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. I mean, be thinking about that because again, even as you were talking about with Disney, like we were trying to make life-changing, memorable, but also like pivoting points in somebody's journey in their life. And yes, those can happen via the Holy Spirit at any time, but they also take some intentionality, some planning. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, like strategy and thinking through that process of how we get people through a successful transformation to be more like Christ. So,
yeah. And I mean, so we had obviously like we reference our, life experiences, right? So the college ministry that I was working at, I wanted to start getting online, and we did things at that time that like the rest of the building wasn't doing, right? Because the rest of the building, how big it was, they were pretty siloed, and they're not anymore, right? They're all under one umbrella, which is great now. But we had I made the push to go online, right? This was, probably.
I think you said earlier, like 2016, 15.
Yeah, 15, 16, somewhere in there. And so the worship pastor for that ministry, who was also like the, graphic arts person, because obviously like in those kind of ministries, we all wear multiple hats, right? He was like, well, I really feel like we need to get everything, kind of laid out in the room before we go outside of the room.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, all right. So he's like, I want to get all the graphics down. I want to get like the service flow down. I want to get like how we're presenting our announcements down. I want to get like the worship team feeling like it's like firing on all cylinders. We want to get like the greeters on, right? Because there's nothing worse than like, oh, I'm going to go see Stephen Furtick, right? And you walk into Elevation and it's the worst experience you've ever had, even though Stephen Furtick gave an amazing message, right? Yeah. If all the rest of everything else sucked, like that would wear on their online presence.
Yep.
And so that was, he didn't use Stephen Furtick as an example, but he was just saying like, if we do something right and everyone's like, oh, I want to come hear this pastor, and then everything's in shambles in the room, like it will make people not want to be here.
It's holistically part of the experience.
Right. So I was like, oh yeah, that's fair. Right. And so we started going through and I was like, well, how can I help? Right. And so like we started looking into like how can we train our greeters the best, right? Me and him actually ended up starting like getting in competitions of how many new people could we introduce ourselves to, right? So we'd be like just wandering around like trying to introduce ourselves and like greet new people, and like we'd get ready and we'd go for prayer right before service would start, and I'd be like, I got 5, and he's like, dang, I got 4. Right? There was one night he was like, I got 9, and I was like, whoa. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, there's a lot of new people here. But then we started recording and posting, and then we started live streaming, so it was like we did all these steps, right? It wasn't just like, let's throw some cameras in. Like we were a big enough church, we could have just done that. Yeah. But holistically, we decided we want to make sure that everything matches, right? So that whatever you see online, you don't come and get in the building and then you're disappointed, right? You don't feel welcomed, right? We had people saying, I've never come into a church where I felt more loved when I walk into a room and more like part of a family than this church right here for this ministry. And I don't think a lot of people can say that, which is unfortunate. But there was a lot of effort that went into that. And there was a lot of effort in like all of my volunteers had to be greeters first, right? We made them do things like that, right? If you wanted to be a part of the worship team, you had to be willing to be a greeter for a couple of weeks first. Right. You also had to work with the sound team first. Right. And then so it's like you had to be a greeter for worship team and for AV. Then if you were trying to be part of the AV, you had to serve the worship team. Right. Not work in AV. Right. And if you were part of the worship team, the next step from greeting was you had to serve and work with the AV department. Right. Because those two departments are,
you're cross training there.
They're right there. Right. So then when it was like when they finally got to be on stage, they understood what we were doing, why we were doing it, and they knew us, right? Like we were like part of their community at that point, and vice versa. And it just made things so much easier, so much better, right? And that's a holistic thought process there, right?
Yep. I think that's the thing is, it is very easy to work in silos, and man, plenty of teams and churches still do, and organizations honestly too. But the effort that it takes. It does take effort to break them down. But there's so much return on investment. And I think an impacted experience when you're able to work through those and break them down. So, as you're talking to, it reminds me, like, I'm not a big sports guy, but like just the fundamentals of games, right? Like being able to tackle well, dribble well, like those basics. If you do not have the building blocks, the fundamentals, your game falters very quickly. It's not all these special plays. It's doing the small things well. There's some saying that I'm just totally forgetting about that as well. But it's doing those little small things well.
Yeah. So let's talk gear.
Yeah. What does this kind of mean for us technology wise?
Yeah. Production, buying equipment. What do we do? So here's one of my sales things pre-COVID is – there was a lot of things that we did that differently. Like the mindsets were kind of different before COVID because COVID kind of forced us into this, like everyone has the live stream thing. Now we're a couple years past that and, that doesn't really hold true anymore. And that's kind of what we were talking about in that last podcast, right? Certain people, it totally makes sense. It's great. For a lot of people, it doesn't. And so we had churches that would come to us and say, hey, we want to live stream and we want to reach the world and essentially create this great, amazing church online experience, and we have a massive budget, right? And, for a massive budget, that can mean a lot of things to different people, right? For the majority of the ones that I'm thinking of, they would sit in between the $30,000 and $60,000 range. And that would be churches that didn't have, and like churches that were not 50 people. Some of them were, but a lot of them were, 100, 150, 200, 300 person churches.
Not necessarily a large church.
Yeah. Not a massive church, but not a small church for the most part. Right. And they had nothing. Right. So that was like, they have no cameras, no video switching, no computers, no nothing. Right. You walk in, they have in-room and that's the only thing they have.
Yeah. So they need an end-to-end video system.
End-to-end video system to live stream. And I would ask questions, right? And there was a plethora of questions, right? Who are we trying to reach? Why are we trying to do this, right? Do we need 5 cameras or do we really only need 1 in the back of the room? Which is, again, something that we talk about in that last podcast. The next thing was, okay, well, how are you planning on mixing audio, right? And they would go, oh, well, we're probably just going to take a main left-right feed from the soundboard and dump it in a video. Okay, that's great, but your PA sucks. It sounds real bad. Now, obviously, I would say a lot more gentle than that. Right.
We're taking off the salesman hat a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, it doesn't sound good, right? It's 20 years old. There's no treatment in the room. Right. And so and they're like, well, I don't. So we would get some pushback, right? Obviously, because no one ever just goes, oh, yeah, of course. Where should I write my blank check? So they'd say, what do we do? Right. So what are you trying to say? Why do you feel like that's such an important thing? Because when you have a sound system that doesn't sound good, right? It's old, it's fatigued, it's falling apart. Like I said, there's no treatment in the room, right? So like there's certain frequencies that ring in that room that cause feedback in that room. So you have to cut those out. You're EQing for those old tired drivers, right? To get them to sound as okay as you possibly can in the room. But then that translates to a pair of couple $100 headphones or a home theater system in someone's house or something along those lines. And now something that sounds kind of like this now sounds like this on the live stream.
Yep.
Right. And so that holistic thought process, right, now changes everything. And that still goes for the person that says, well, what if we're going to do a second X32 or a second SQ console, right? We then don't have to replace a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 sound system. We can just buy a $3,000 soundboard until someone walks in after seeing you on live stream and goes, wow, it sounds real bad in here. Right. And now your holisticness just falls apart. Right. And they're like, well, I can't be in person. Like this drives me crazy. Like this sounds so bad. It gives me a headache. Right.
Yep.
Whatever it may be. Right.
Or you're not the person you're projecting to be.
Yeah. Some people make that feel like, hell, you feel fake. Like you gave me a false sense of who you were. Right. The pastor clearly has pants on, which I just assumed he didn't because he's only shot from the waist up.
That's also too. You're doing a disservice. Like if you can make it sound good in the live stream, you should be able to make it sound good in person. Like then it's not a musician problem, or
Yeah. I mean, and there's obviously like some of those things. Those things. Like there's so many caveats to this kind of stuff, right? But it's like this idea of again. Who's our main audience, right? Like if you have a church of 100 people and you have 20 people online, right? Why do the 100 people have to suffer? I'll use air quotes for that, right? Why would you not give them the higher standard of things, right? We're not talking about a church that is 100 people and they've got 10,000 people watching online for some reason, right? Then obviously priorities would shift. Right. Or 100 people in person and 100 people online. Right. I get that there's obvious balances that happen there. But I'm sorry, 99.9% of the people that are watching this podcast or that aren't even watching this podcast, that's not what's happening. They will probably always have a tenth of the people online or less than what they have in person. Yep. It's just a matter of reality.
Yeah. And I mean, that's then comes back to just return on your investment. Like you spend more because you have more in person.
Yeah. And the thing is that if we bolster our in person with good greeting, good distributed audio throughout the building, good distributed video throughout the building, good main sound system, we've trained our volunteers. We've invested money into them getting education. We have good musicians. Maybe we're even investing in our musicians getting better lessons, right? That the church is paying for that, right? Like pastors go to conferences. We send them to that. We send them to let them buy books so that they can get better educated. We give them all those things so that they can get sharp. We're part of the ministry too, and just a different platform, right? So it's like we're doing all those things. What are those things going to do? Those things are going to make it so that more people end up coming through the door. Whether that's because people are more enticed to invite someone to come, or that's because someone heard that it was awesome there, that people were friendly, the facility was clean, the worship band was really good. Like those are all things that I know that when I get invited to church, that if they don't go, hey, our worship's amazing and it's a really friendly environment, right? If they just say, you should come to my church, it'd be great. You'd love it. Right? That's red flagged for me, right? Because like when anyone's trying to entice you to do something, they, do this thing, right? And then we can even talk about this inviting thing, right? And I think that we should probably try and have like somebody from a marketing, background kind of talk about this. But Brady and them on the podcast, they talked with their church online lady from Life Church, and they're talking about who they're inviting. Because again, this is that next step of holisticness, right? Our in-person's done, right? We've now gotten online and we're doing this. How are we going to get more people, right? Are we just going to like And this is something I dealt with, right? When I was advertising for my church, right? Events that we were having, or just trying to get more people through the door, right? We did things like, okay, well, I'm going to do a Facebook ad, right? We're going to do some Facebook ads. Well, who do we target in that? People that like Elevation Church, people that like Bethel, people that like Hillsong. Yep. Great. Well, who are the people that like those? They're the people that are in the church right down the street from you. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? Are we going to take from them, or as I call, we're just going to shuffle God's audience around, right? Mm-hmm. Or like the woman from Life Church said, they advertise in the places where they feel are the places that people need Jesus, right? The adult film sites, the gambling sites, all these things of like places that are the things that we're not supposed to be doing. If you're in some of those sites, most likely you need a Jesus community.
Yep.
Right. And that's where a massive amount of their online people come from, is from those advertisements. Yep. Right. So it's like, why not try and advertise and bring those people in rather than just shuffling around. Right. You got like 6 Baptist churches in town that like everyone's been to all 6 Baptist churches at some point in time. Right. And everyone's been to all 5 of the Methodist churches in town at some point in time because someone said something that frustrated them, or they just got bored, or, I'm just tired of the sound system sounding terrible, or I'm tired of the pastor just saying the same 3 things over and over and over again. Right. Whatever the case may be, that's what happens. So we're not even advertising the right place.
Yeah. But and that's I think that also just goes back to knowing your audience, right? And knowing who you're going after, and because then that, to me, turn around and potentially impacts some of your choices you make for preparation and just meeting people where they're at. So.
Yeah, I think if I was to say, let's wrap this up and say, like, what is the ultimate goal that we're saying to get to here? I think that it is, obviously, like, sound guys don't have a lot of say in like the greeters, right? So like that's just hopefully you're a pastor listening to this and you can take some of that to heart, right? Mm-hmm. For all the actual AV people that are watching, listening to this podcast, I think what I'm trying to get at is, I would rather see you spend your dollars, cents, time on two things first: education and good gear for in-person stuff. Things that are going to actually enhance the service. The first thing about the service that needs to be done is the sound system. And here, let me answer why I think that. Ultimately, what's the point of church? To hear the word and to worship. If that can't be clarified, right? Sean says
or it's muffled, they're just distracting through
hard to understand, right? There's terrible diction, terrible coverage, or it's too loud because you have to turn it up so that the back can hear, and then the front rows just get killed, and then the front rows are always empty, and then the pastor's always making comments about how the front rows are empty, right? Or you can't hear it because the coverage just goes right over your head and have the voice of God syndrome. Right. Like there's so many things that go into this, right? This isn't just we're just throwing out, hey, buying a new sound system. This is like there's a reason for lip fills. There's a reason for foldback speakers. There's a reason for center fills. There's a reason for out fills. Like there's a reason why you get point source over line array. There's a reason why you get line array over point source, right? Mm-hmm. There's all these things that go into these type of things. And I guarantee you, and this is something I will guarantee, you have a good sound system that is tuned well, and an educated or somewhat educated engineer that's competent, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have to be the most amazing audio engineer in the world.
A growing engineer.
Yeah, right. Everything else can fall into place. Everything else, people are willing to deal with bad video. They're willing to deal with weird or non-dimmable lights or something like that. People are not willing to deal with bad audio, right? And the thing is that bad audio gets the worship band and the AV team arguing and bickering. And then there's more division, right? We already have enough reasons to bicker with each other. Let's not add more things that we can fix ourselves, right? So those 2 things, education and good sound system. Yep. Everything else, like, do I want you to have great lights and great, video and all that? 100%.
Yeah.
Do I want you to get online in some way, shape, or form? Of course. I think it would be great. I think there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
So I've rambled for like 10 minutes. As you can tell, I'm a little passionate about this.
Yeah, slightly. I would also say, too, I think, again, just talking about ROI and return on investment, you can spend less and get a bigger impact on a PA or a sound system versus like a lighting or a video system, you can potentially spend a lot more for not as much of an impact. So,
yeah. And acoustic treatment goes a long way too. Like a lot of people always cut that, and it's like, man, I'm like, I probably would have like dialed back on some other things if I could have.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I think there's a lot of churches that have learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, and then I think there's, you know, and this is where it gets difficult, right? Because like I do that a little different, right? A lot of places and a lot of people, a lot of pros will say treat the room first and then put the PA in there. I say that is not wrong, because I think that there's a difference between incorrect and wrong, right? I think that there's actual wrong ways, and I think there's incorrect ways. I think that that's an incorrect way to look at things. Now, again, with a caveat, there are some spaces that's 100% what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I've been in a lot of spaces that people have been told that, and I go, I bet you if we put the right sound system in here, you guys will be happy enough to not spend the money on acoustic treatment. There's a specific client that I have that they were told that they needed acoustic treatment because of the shape of the room, which was kind of a crazy shape, a lot of hard surfaces, a lot of reflections, right? They were also on point source speakers that were literally just throwing audio on every wall, every ceiling, everything.
Yeah, yeah.
They were told by an acoustician, which again, acousticians always go over the top, right? But they wanted like $150,000 worth of acoustic treatment put in this room.
Oh.
And it was absurd, right? So first of all, we weren't ever going to do that. Second of all, I was like, that's probably more like $40,000 to $60,000 worth of acoustic treatment that you need from what they showed us the report, what it said. And I said,
that's a lot of, that's a lot.
This is a really big room. And it's a lot of ceiling. So a lot of that,
it better be
a lot of that's a labor. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that.
Because that's the thing is like, you have to think of it that way too, right?
Yeah. It's still
when you're hanging stuff on sloped ceilings and stuff like that, like it gets real complicated real quick. You know, and this is also 5-6 years ago. So, you know, there's a lot of there's brands of panels that I use now that would make mincemeat of those designs, right? That would be, you know, like I could install that twice as fast as originally. But the idea of him, it's saying, you know, his report was saying that it's coming off these side walls and this back wall. That's where 90% of this is coming from, right? And so that it's hitting the ceiling and then coming down, hitting the walls and then coming out, right? That's where a lot of it's coming. And I was like, I bet you anything that if we could control where we're throwing sound and we can pull as much off these walls and the ceiling as possible, I bet you we either don't have to do treatment or can do a lot less. And so my suggestion to a lot of places is let's correct the PA, make sure that the PA that's in the space is correct. Some people have the correct space, the PA for their space, and just need treatment. I'm not saying that that's not the case either, right? So, but a lot of people don't have the correct PA, right? A lot of churches, Jordan, how many times have you gone in and asked, when this PA was installed, was there a drum set on stage?
Yeah,
exactly. There wasn't? Oh, okay. So it's actually a public announcement system. Right? Yeah. There's an organ that spits out super loud, right? And then the pastor stood up and talked, and the speaker system just amplified his voice, right? There was no drums. There was no guitar.
Or did the pastor, like the lectern location or pulpit location change?
Right. Because it used to be off to the side. Now it's in the middle or it's on the floor. Yeah. All those things, right? And so it's like, okay, but I bet you if we can replace the PA with a PA that's correct for this room, right? Yeah. Maybe that's constant curvature. Maybe that's variable curvature. Maybe it is a point source system, right? For this church, it was like some K-array, like column array boxes. Really weird why they were in there. Don't know why anyone would ever say that was the right system for that room specifically. It just didn't make any sense. So we ended up hanging a constant curvature system in that room, and we probably reduced the reflections on the walls by like 60% in the ceiling. And we ran there first Sunday, and they were like, to this day, they still haven't added treatment to that room.
Wow.
And they spent like 55 on the PA install and everything like that.
Yeah.
So like we gave them a brand new sound system for a third of the cost of what the people wanted for a treatment. They didn't end up doing any treatment, and like they're happy as pigs in mud to this day.
Oh yeah. Nobody likes to do treatment. I look at it as more of just a package.
Yeah.
Like it's all there so that we can have a great sound experience.
Yeah. So those are my two things. Good PA, education. Those are the two things you have to do in some form or fashion. And sometimes you have to do one or the other, unfortunately, you know, but yeah. And there's lots of online stuff too. You don't have to like shipping people all over the place and doing all that kind of stuff. Honestly, like, you know, how many churches are there in this country, right? Guarantee you that there's, you know, some 100-person church that has the greatest sound guy in the world for some reason, right? That would be more than willing to sit down with your small church and give you some pointers even, right? Because like that's the thing, right? You got YouTube, right? You don't need to go and get a master class and go get a degree from Full Sail, you know, to run front of house for your 100-person church. Like that's not what I'm saying.
No.
But like if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Yeah. And this is where I also think like having a relationship with an AVL, audiovisual lighting installer, 100%. Integrator, you know, maybe not buying some from right away, but like they're great connectors and networkers and lean on them a little bit and throw them some business when you can. So,
that's all I've got on this. I mean, I could keep going and going and going, but I'd probably just start repeating what I'm already saying.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And we got to have, you know, content for future episodes. So,
yeah, I mean, we're not Joe Rogan. We're not sitting here doing 3 or 4 hour long podcasts, unfortunately. So,
well, I mean, if we had like some of the guests he had, we'd be here for a hot minute.
True. So we could.
And we're working on some guests that are kind of interesting.
Yeah, we do have a lot of really good ideas. Some series, right? So a lot of these podcasts, like we are trying to like make them all kind of like congruent and not just like these weird silos, right?
Yep. One-offs. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have some ideas for some different things. So if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, put it in the comments below. Email us, like I said, Justin or Jordan at enhanceavl.com. Probably should get like a podcast email too. So maybe I'll fire one of those up today too.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you're subscribing, writing, reviewing, enhancing,
commenting. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe there's some other areas like holistically that we've not really talked about that we should be considering.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, guys. Keep on enhancing.
Keep on subscribing.
Oh, did you see that wink?
We have to wink now to close out the podcast?
No, we don't. I don't know why I did it.
I don't know why you called attention to it.
Because I'm weird. I like winked and I was like,
let's go to the thumbnail.
No, that's the thumbnail.
Man.
I do that to my kids. I'm like, I'm going to double wink. They're like, you're just closing your eyes. And I was like, no, it's a double wink.
Just at the same time.
Winking at each of you.
Oh, man.
Best podcast in the world right here. We should totally have a podcast all about winking. I'm just joking. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Justin, and this is Jordan. Keep on enhancing.
Keep on winking.
Keep on winking.